to Teleperformance's exclusive podcast. This month, we have been talking about different things around the holidays that really can affect your mental health and just some awareness around facts that we know how to cope with some things like that, as well as our employee assistance program that we have available to all team members. So, today, what we're going to talk about is battling depression, especially during the holidays, but really all year long. And with me, I have Shay Cushman, who is the Vice President of Human Resources Compliance from Teleperformance, as well as Karen Reck, who is with our Health Advocate and helps with our Employee Assistance Program. So I want to give you all both just a moment to kind of say hello to everybody, and then we will jump right into what we're talking about today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Karen Reck with Health Advocate EAP.
Hi, I am Shay Cushman. I'm your Vice President of Human Resources Compliance for TPUSA. Wonderful to meet you all, and thank you for having us.
All right, and thank both of you for being here. So I'm excited to talk about this, which I guess maybe excited to talk about depression is not really the right words to use, but I think it's important that we do talk about it. I think it's a huge topic all year round, but especially, we are in the holiday season. So the first thing that I want to do is really just kind of explain. I think there's a lot of different views on what depression is, or, what the signs of it may be, different things like that. So Karen, can you give us a really good kind of definition of really what is depression?
Sure. One way to kind of start taking a look at it is what it's not. Depression is not just about being sad or having a bad day or just like you're just feeling off. Depression is really something that decreases our ability to function, whether it be at home or at work, and it really does affect our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Diagnostically, counselors and physicians look at it as it's a pattern of symptoms, and those symptoms may last over a period of more than 2 weeks. So we might start seeing different types of changes in behavior, like loss of interest in activities, maybe some difficulty in concentrating or making decisions. Could be changes in appetite, whether we're overeating or undereating. We could have a weight increase or decrease. Can be difficulty in sleeping, fatigue, restless and slow movements. So there's a lot of pieces that go in with it. And it really does go up to and including thoughts of suicide or self-harm.
All right, and Shay, did you have anything you wanted to add to that piece?
Depression looks different for everyone. So you got to go by your baseline. And at the end of the day, you know your body best. So if it's like, oh, this isn't right, or oh, I'm just this, more sad. The one thing to remember through, defining your own depression is everything in this life is temporary. The good is temporary, so relish it and remember those moments and create those memories. But the sad moments that Karen is talking about, the behavioral patterns that Karen is talking about, those are also temporary. So just hold on to the good. And when you're going through tough times, realize that whatever it is that is causing you distress, it will subside one way or the other. So, you will either come up with a solution or it'll work itself out, but it's temporary.
And I think speaking about something, as far as it being temporary, this is kind of leading perfect into the next thing I want to talk about, because we are in the holiday season. We're in, something that is only going to last a couple of months. And then whether it be a good or bad, we're going to move on to a new year and the next season of, what's going on just in general. So I think when it comes to anything, but especially mental health and depression, for some reason, this time of year is very vulnerable for a lot of people. And I wanted to get your all's insight on what it is you think that may cause that. Why is this time of year, what is it about it that makes us so vulnerable?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think what we see a lot of times with the EAP and what people share is, and what we want people to remember is that, the holiday season comes with a lot of emotions, but it also comes with a lot of stress that's tied to it. So those are pieces that are really important to remember. We also have very high expectations that come along with it. What our holiday is supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be perfect. There's a lot of pieces that come with that, but we also may have that part of where we're feeling lonely or isolated. We may be grieving a loss, or just the loss of time or the lack of time to do everything that we like. So we can really start to wear thin during these times, and it's important that we pay attention to that. Um, we also get into that part of all those things that we should be doing at this time of the year. So that's something to keep in mind. We should be able to attend all these parties, and we should be able to keep doing everything, and we should host the perfect table and family gathering. But we know that, those types of things tied with all of the emotions that come with us can really make us very vulnerable and susceptible. So we want to pay attention to things like that. But we also have the things like holiday blues, where we really do have those feelings of stress, anxiety, and sadness that kind of just sometimes come at the holiday seasons. So paying attention to those things, and knowing what our warning signs and symptoms are really can help us.
Agreed. And another thing that I look at a lot too is, when you go on social media, either the Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook, how many of us go on social media and post every bad day? Right? Nobody does that. We go on social media to share all of the wonderful things that we want to share with all of our friends and family, not knowing that there's a Karen or a Shay or an Audrey on the other side of that phone that could be dealing with something tough. In team, at the end of the day, we are all going to deal with tough things in our life. It is going to happen. It's unavoidable. If we're not going through if we're not going through a tough situation right now, that's great. Enjoy that moment, because a tough situation or a tough time in life is going to be coming. And the one thing to remember, as you're scrolling through the TikTok at the end of the day, is that whatever someone puts on Facebook is their best impression that they want you to have. But meanwhile, you're sitting on the other side of that screen knowing all of your skeletons, knowing all of your own vulnerabilities, knowing all of your fears. It's very easy to compare your fears and vulnerabilities and skeletons to what that person wants you to think is the best impression that they have, or the normal impression that they have to give you. So remember, we've all got skeletons. We've all got fears, insecurities, troubles, vulnerabilities. Be careful when comparing your image of yourself to what someone else wants you to think that they are on social media, because it doesn't always add up.
I think social media is a perfect example of that too. And I know I'm guilty of it. Like, even in my good moments, let alone, all the bad moments that you don't see of people, but even good moments. If holidays, we're baking cookies, we're making candy, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I had a very stressful time with it. Even though we got it done, it was fun, it's a good moment. You look on social media and somebody else makes it look like it's just an everyday part of their day. It's just so easy, it's so normal. And it took me 3 hours to wrangle my kid and get chocolate off the floor and all of these other things. So I think social media plays a huge factor, when we're talking about what we think we should be doing or what we think things should look like. But in all reality, that's not our reality, it's not their reality either. It's just the piece of reality they snipped.
Yep. Yep.
Right. I think that's a perfect example of that. And then, talking about the holiday specifically, I know that there is, a seasonal type of depression that a lot of people fall into, not just for the holidays, but several different times throughout the year. And then there's, multiple other types of depression that I think maybe not everyone always realizes, it doesn't always have to be clinical. It doesn't always have to be permanent. It doesn't always have to be something that's in your face and that you recognize immediately. So, Karen, can you give us just an example of some different types of depression and if there are different, behaviors that go along with those, or how you may be able to recognize that just because you're not clinically depressed, or, you still may be struggling with something?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Audrey. Yeah, I mean, most often what we see, when we're talking about depression and, a lot of those symptoms that I talked about earlier that are kind of hallmarks of clinical depression, we can see just, sometimes when we're stressed. But really, when we're talking about clinical depression, we're really seeing those signs and symptoms be real pervasive, and they're lasting for a period of time, and it's not changing. So that's what we kind of think about when we talk about with the clinical depression, and we're really wanting to make sure that someone, gets to talk to a counselor or their doctor or a psychiatrist, someone to get the support to help them process through that. But we also see things like situational depression. Sometimes situational depression comes when we're having difficulties in coping with relationships, or maybe grief and loss. And really, what happens is we may feel sad or down, but it tends to go away over time. It's usually much shorter. Um, this time of the year, though, too, what we often see is what we call seasonal affective disorder, where because of the shortening of the days, nighttime comes sooner, right? We're all starting to feel tired at 5 o'clock. We want to go to bed already because the sun's gone down. So seasonal affective disorder has a lot to do with the daylight, and not getting out in it, and having those shortening days. And so that can bring on seasonal affective disorder. So that's something else that we pay attention to also.
And some of what I have done in the past is when you need light, go get light. So I have gone to a tanning bed myself. If I know that it's going to get dark at 4:30 and it seems apropos, men, women, anyone can go to a tanning bed. Maybe the perfect holiday gift is a small little tanning package for yourself. The light, the injection of the vitamin D onto your skin, it helps significantly. You're warmer, so you're not as cold. In 7 minutes, 5 minutes can give a wealth of help. Another thing that I've done is when you go to Lowe's or Walmart or wherever you buy your light bulbs, you can now buy a daylight light bulb at the traditional store. And the daylight light bulb doesn't have blue UV rays like, your phone, so it's not dangerous by any stretch, but it gives the impression of open sun in your home, in your windows, through your light fixtures. So daylight lights help. A tanning bed, trust me, I know it sounds a little weird, but a tanning bed can help in the winter. You can also just do whatever it takes to create a routine. Do whatever it takes to create a routine and to create a habit of investing in you. Because think about it, we are moms, we are dads, we are brothers, we are sisters, we are family. We come to work, the majority of our lives is spent serving others. But to be able to serve others, you have to fill up that gas tank of energy, and that's where positive habits come in. So positive habits can be as easy as taking a Flintstone vitamin every morning, just something to create the habit to invest in yourself. Another thing that I'll do when I'm in those, depressive points of life is I will force myself to stay up until 9 o'clock or 9:30 or whatever your number is, because the more sleep you get, the more sleep the body wants. And then that's a contributing factor, so even if you can pick up a book or just make a conscious decision, I'm going to watch a little bit of TV and force myself to stay up so that I can get a healthy amount of sleep.
Absolutely. And that you brought up a bunch of really good points about ways that, we cope with if you have recognized that you have any of these types of depression. There's a lot of things that you can do to self-cope with those. And I know before we got started, you had talked a little bit about even a journaling process, Shay, that you started and went through. Can you share a little bit more about that? And if there's any other ways that either of you want to share on how to cope with depression?
Sure, of course. Oh my gosh, thank you. So, a couple of things whenever I've been in depressive points of life that I've done is I've kept a list. You make a list. So, there's a psychological connection between checking something off of a list and having the perception of success. So, the more you check off the list, the more habits of success that you're sending your brain, the more habits that you're creating forward because you want to give your brain more feelings of success. So write down the little things, feed the dog, water the cat, whatever you need to do to be able to check that off and feel successful at the end of the day. Another thing that I do is journaling. So I have a particular style of journal that I like. They're very inexpensive on Amazon. This one is called Wreck This Journal by Carrie Smith. And you can get any journal you want. You can journal in a blank notebook if you want, or you can get something fun like this. The little journals that you can get on Amazon or at the local bookstore, they have little activities in them that you can do as well. They have little games and puzzles. They're, psychological stimulation, mental stimulation, but they also give you an outlet to share your feelings. When sharing feelings, a couple things that I always kept in mind are if your friend, brother, sister, partner, spouse, if someone important to you came into your life and said, hey, Karen, hey, Audrey, hey, Shay, I'm really struggling with this. What advice would you give that person? You would tell them to speak with themselves kindly because you care about them. So it's important that if we're going through this stage of life in this time, this temporary time, that we speak to ourselves like we would speak to one of our friends. So if someone came up to you and they said, hey, I'm really struggling with, the holidays, when is my mother-in-law ever going to leave? As a silly example, but what advice would you give them? You would tell them that they could get through it. You would tell them that they've got this. You would tell them that they can't control how anyone else treats them, but that they can control how they respond. Team, we all work very hard being good people and good team members and good teammates. We've earned joy. So when you're journaling, journal joy when speaking to yourself. One of the things that I do that I work on every day is I say, oh, I'm a terrible cook. I am a terrible cook. But you're just psychologically reinforcing to yourself that you're terrible. Instead, let's say, I'm getting to be a better cook every day. My family might be suffering from the black beans I burned last night, but I am getting better at cooking every day. So when you're journaling, be very mindful of the words that you use and speak to yourself positively. Speak to yourself as you would speak to a friend that you love, because words matter, even to you.
I love that. And I've been a firm keeper of a journal since I was probably 12. So,
Really?
yes, so I
Okay.
keep one. My 9-year-old is even more OCD about her journal than I am. I'm not allowed to touch it, see it, but she keeps one like religiously. She loves it. So I think all of these things that we've talked about are really good coping mechanisms. It's really important. We mentioned on our last podcast, the whole title of it, just be kind to yourself and take care of yourself. And self-care. Those are all parts of coping with depression. But I think when we talk about coping, that's you're kind of insinuating, you've already realized you have this depression, and you're learning how to deal with it. I think one thing that we still need to talk about that Karen's going to be able to shed some light on is how do you get to that point? How do you recognize when it's time to seek that help and when is it time to see a professional so you can get further into what's causing your depression and start to get the help you need to get to that healthy point of being able to cope with it?
So what I encourage people to do is, pay attention to when you start to see some changes in yourself or others where it maybe is, impacting your daily functioning. Like maybe you're not wanting to get out of bed and you're not getting to meetings on time, or you're not completing tasks. You're withdrawing from people, or when we're starting to feel that emotional discomfort. We've been feeling sad or we've been feeling worried, it's just not going away, things aren't improving. That's the time to say, hey, this is when I need to reach out. You can still use your support systems, that's what they're there for. But when we're seeing that and it's lasting longer, and also if we're really starting to get to those points, if anyone gets to the point of some thoughts of suicide or death, that's the time to say I need to seek some more professional help. That's the time I need to talk to my doctor or talk to my clergy member, see a counselor, call the EAP. That's what we're here for. We're here to be able to connect so that we're not getting to more debilitating stages.
For sure. And that's all, perfect example of what I want to talk about next is, the employee assistance program. We send out information to our team members often on it. It's, if you know where to find it, it's readily available, but we want to be sure that we put that back out there because I know you all have several resources. It's not, just an online website. We have ways to get a hold of you all by phone. We can chat with you all through email. And then you do, of course, have your website that's going to direct people to the right place and list the different, kind of resources that we have. So can you give a little bit of information about, I guess, just kind of an overview of what all the employee assistance program has to offer? And then we'll talk, about how to get in touch with you all.
Sure. So the great part is it's a free and confidential service that is brought to you by the workplace. We're a separate company, so when you're contacting us, you're contacting outside of your workplace. We partner with Teleperformance to be able to get you these services. So there's a couple different things. Actually, there's three different major things I'm thinking of. So first is the counseling services. So you have that available to you. The other piece that people don't know about, well, I shouldn't say don't know about, they forget about, is the work-life benefits. So the counseling services are going to help you with depression, anxiety, workplace concerns, marital issues, children struggling with bullying or harassment or test anxiety. It could be domestic violence, substance abuse, again, suicidality, personal growth and development, maybe wanting to change something in your career. So not just about crisis. The counseling is about really getting help with anything you may need assistance with, burnout, caregiving, all those things, post-COVID. Then the work-life benefits are great because these, hopefully, if we can take care of these for you and help you, maybe we're not getting to the point of being so anxious or stressed and needing the counseling, or we need to partner with the counseling with it. So we help locate childcare or elder care services. So I say if Aunt Edna lives in Boise or Boston, it doesn't matter. If she's needing a nursing home facility, a memory care unit, in-home care, but you're not sure where to start, you call us so that we can be able to connect you with the appropriate services. We're going to do the research for you. Same goes for childcare. We can help find after-school programs, daycares, in-home care, summer camps. And again, that frees you up, so not having to play phone tag or take time out of work to do it. We'll run down the resources. Then you have the great benefit of legal consultations with an attorney by phone, referrals to attorneys at discounted rate. Can be about any area of law except about workplace issues. But you may have something like a landlord tenant issue or mediation or divorce or wills or power of attorney, something civil or criminal that you may just need to ask some questions about. It's a great free resource to be able to use. Then you have the financial services, and that's about financial counseling. So the financial counselors are there to help you with tax questions, maybe identity theft or scams, because we're hearing a lot about that at this time of the year. how to build a better budget, how to clear credit or build credit. Or maybe you have some young adult who's going out or in college that needs to understand maybe about credit cards and budgeting. So that's a great resource to use. And the last piece I want to remind you of is you have the great website to use. Now, two things. In order to use the counseling or work life services, you need to call into the EAP so that we can do an assessment. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes and get you the referral. The website is a great research and support tool for you to use. And on the website, what you have is information about legal and financial tabs. It also talks about work-life resources, but you have self-assessments, some for depression or anxiety, emotional IQ. You have articles about dealing with conflicts at work, how to improve your relationship, how to talk to kids about difficult situations, how to deal with test anxiety. And we also archive our webinars. So if you go to the website and check on the webinars tab, you'll be able to find all of the webinars that we've recorded for the past year that deal with both work and personal issues. If you look at those financial tabs, you'll find things about budgeting. If you look at legal, it'll talk to you about making a basic will. So it's a great wealth of resources that you have at your hand to be able to use either by the website or to be able to call.
I will 100% be the first one to admit I did not know you all offered all of that. That's a lot of resources. And
It
I
is.
don't know if Shay feels the same way, but I've worked a lot of places in my life. I don't know that I've ever had access to that much in any of them.
Now, Karen, isn't the EAP available not just for you, but for anyone in your household? So if your child is having difficulty with testing or your child is having budget issues, you guys can make that call together or even give them the number and let them call on their own?
EAP services are good for you, your partner or spouse, children to the age of 26, your parents and parents-in-law.
That's
And
awesome.
they don't have to live in your home. That's the other piece. So if you have a young adult who has maybe gone off to the military, they're living on their own for the first time, they're college students, whether they're living at home or away, no matter what state they're in, or again, your parents or parents-in-law, they can all use the services. They just need to call us and talk to us if they're 18 years old and up. But if you do have that 18-year-old or that young adult, you can call with them, but we are going to need to talk to them individually.
All right. So I think the things that we've been talking about, and Karen, you hit on two of them that are coming up in future podcasts. Just so everybody is aware, like we said, it is a 4-part series. We're going to also talk about those debt management ways, things that you all do, and the ways to, deal with those coming up next week. And then the following week, we will have another expert from Health Advocate come back over, and we're going to just really deep dive and explore every bits and pieces of employee assistance program. And the webinars that you mentioned that you all archive, we're also going to touch on the 2022 calendar because you all have some really awesome stuff coming up in 2022. So both of those are still to come. For anybody who's following and listening along to the series, be sure that you're on the lookout for those also. And if you are listening, I know that we've got our global Spotify podcast channel out there. If you haven't subscribed to it, definitely go and do that. Follow that channel. You'll get a notification every time that we do post something. It's completely free. There's all of the podcasts on there, and there's also some really cool playlists. So if you're into the music, it's from, not just even Teleperformance USA. It's from all over the world. You can learn some new cool music. We're also going to be able to have this up on our YouTube channel. So if you don't follow Teleperformance USA YouTube channel, go and subscribe to that. You'll also get a notification there because if you're anything like me, I like to put a visual to what I'm listening to. So if I'm in the car, I'll do Spotify audio. If I'm anywhere else, I try to, watch the visuals and see who's talking. So just know that both of those channels are out there and available for free to everybody. And then the last thing I want to talk about is really, we touched that you all have several avenues to get a hold of you. So I want to make sure that everybody has those resources available. If anyone needs to get in touch with the Employee Assistance Program, you can reach them by phone. That number is going to be 877-240-6863. If you are more comfortable or, time resource, however you want to look at it, with email, you can shoot them an email at answers@healthadvocate.com. And then if you want to go and check out the website that Karen was talking about, look at any of their archive stuff, do the assessments, everything that they have available, that's going to be healthadvocate.com/members. And the topic that we've touched on a few times today, within the holiday season, I know it kind of comes more prevalent, but really all throughout the year, if there is ever a time that anyone, you yourself or anyone that has those thoughts that may, look like suicidal thoughts, if there's any self-harm thoughts, we do have the suicide helpline available that you can always reach out to. That number is going to be 800-273-8255. Or you can also look at it 800-273-TALK. So just know that that is there. Should, of course, we hope that, none of our team members are going to need that, but it is a reality. It's something that pretty much everyone has, dealt with someone in your life at some point in time. So it's a very important resource to have out there. That's going to wrap up our podcast for today. So I do, again, Shay, Karen, I want to thank both of you all for coming on. I know we will probably have both of you back in the future because we are ramping up the podcast and it's going to be a big thing in 2022. But thank you both for coming on.
It's our pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.